While you're waiting, feel free to send a quick hello in the chat to your right of the screen. You can give your name, where you're joining from, and maybe what has you most interested about joining today. I can see some of you typing there, so hello. For today's session, we will have presentations in English. If you prefer to listen in French, you can click on the simultaneous interpretation button at the bottom of the screen. You should have the option to choose French in the menu that opens. You're also welcome to ask questions in English or French, depending on your preference. And additionally, please note that today's session is being recorded. These recordings will appear in the on-demand section of the conference platform tomorrow, along with yesterday's session in case you've also missed it. So on behalf of FCM, I'd like to begin this session today by acknowledging that we are meeting on lands that have been inhabited by Indigenous peoples for thousands of years. We at FCM recognise the Algonquin Anishinaabe people as the traditional custodians of the land upon which FCM offices are located and where I am currently situated today. We also recognise the contributions of Métis, Inuit and all First Nations, both in shaping and strengthening this community and the country as a whole. So wherever you are, please join me today in paying our respects to the original stewards of this land and committing ourselves to the thoughts and actions that will lead us to meaningful reconciliation wherever we live now. So I'm going to get started with all of the information in this presentation. As many of you may already know, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities is a not-for-profit organisation that acts as the national voice of municipal governments in Canada. We operate a variety of funding and educational programs to increase sustainability in communities across the country. This includes a number of green initiatives, programs on women in government, climate protection, and international development, to name a few. And it also includes our largest program, the Green Municipal Fund, which is a $1 billion program funded by the Government of Canada to support environmentally beneficial projects across Canada. For 2 decades, GMF has led the way in supporting innovative municipal sustainability projects across Canada. GMF, being the short for the Green Municipal Fund. Through GMF's unique mix of training, resources and funding, municipalities have improved their air, water and soil quality and tackled impacts of climate change. And in recent times, we've taken this Green Municipal Fund to a new level, offering new initiatives with specific focuses. And today I have 4 initiatives that I'd like to share with you. They are community efficiency financing, sustainable affordable housing, low carbon cities Canada, LC3, and GMF core funding, which was the original offer developed by GMF at the beginning. So just going back there for 1 second, if you don't mind. Community efficiency financing is our new $300 million initiative, which helps municipalities deliver energy efficient financing programs for low-rise residential properties. The Sustainable Affordable Housing Initiative is another $300 million initiative, which supports local affordable housing providers with retrofits of existable housing units or to construct energy efficient new builds that emit lower GHG emissions. The Low Carbon Cities Canada Network is a partnership between 7 of Canada's largest cities and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities with a focus to reducing carbon emissions. And then we have GMF core funding. This is the offer I actually know more about. So we'll go to the next slide. GMF is the original offer first established within the Green Municipal Fund, and it's consistently updated throughout the years. There are 5 key sectors that we fund within this program. It is waste, water, energy, transport, and land use. So the funding can be granted through various formats, including grants and loans in the form of plans, studies, pilots, and capital projects. The funding provided by the Green Municipal Fund is available to all Canadian municipal governments, and their project partners who can prove a formal partnership with the municipality. They include private sector entities, Indigenous communities, municipally owned corporations, a regional, provincial, or territorial organization that provides benefit to municipalities, non-governmental organizations and not-for-profit organizations, and research institutes. So we have a series of webinars that focus on providing useful knowledge about the very beginning of a sustainable project to the very end. In that sense, this first webinar today will focus on building a strong business case. The second webinar will focus on transitioning from study or pilot projects to capital projects. And the third webinar will focus on maintaining a project's success over time. So today, some housekeeping. We have 3 presenters today who I will introduce next. They will be presenting in a Pecha Kucha style, which is the format of a 7-minute presentation with roundtable and Q&A discussion at the end. Please feel free to ask questions, as I see some of you have already done, in the chat box, or unmute yourself during the question and answer session if you wish to also. During the presentations, please keep your microphones off. And just a reminder again, if you do wish to listen to our presentations in French, we have simultaneous interpretation. So today's presenters, let me introduce them. We have Kevin Butler, Clean Energy Specialist at Halifax Regional Municipality. He will be presenting on Solar City Halifax. Next, we have Gordon Zazi, Project Manager, Housing Development at Niagara Regional Housing. He will be presenting today on Niagara's region's first social housing lead building. My tongue is getting twisted. And we also have our final presentation today by Amy Algersma. She is the Chief Administrative Officer at the City of Iqaluit, and she will be presenting today on the City of Iqaluit's new LEED Silver Aquatic Centre. So today we have Kevin presenting Solar City Halifax. These are 5 key areas of success that we thought we would share with you. One key area that stood out to me on this project was that Halifax is the first Canadian municipality to employ this user pay model with the aim to create a budget neutral program. So Kevin, I'm going to hand it over to you to elaborate a little bit more on this for us.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I'm pleased to be here today to discuss the keys to a successful green municipal project. As mentioned, my name is Kevin Butler, and I'm the Clean Energy Specialist with the Halifax Regional Municipality and a member of the very small but very mighty Energy and Environment Division with the municipality. While very small, we have a huge role when it comes to climate action at the local level, where meaningful action really gets its footing. We're the corporate lead for programs, policies, and projects that promote environmental sustainability and leadership. And one of those programs that is led by our team is the successful and long-running Solar City program, which began over a decade ago. In 2015, we were the recipients of FCM's Sustainable Communities Award for the Solar City program. In fact, between 2013 and 2015, the number of residential solar hot water installations in Halifax actually exceeded the rest of Canada during that same time frame. So the first key to success is a robust financing mechanism. So prior to launching the pilot, staff were directed to investigate and apply for funding, grants, loans, and rebates to ensure that the pilot program would be administered at no cost to the non-participating taxpayer. It was crucial that all administration costs be covered. So to start, we looked at using property assessed clean energy, or PACE financing. This type of financing is now widely used across Canada as a way for municipalities to finance renewable and efficiency projects on private property at no upfront cost to the property owner. So while PACE financing was selected as the most effective financing mechanism, the pilot was actually on the verge of being axed by council. And that was until we were actually able to secure just over 1 million in rebates for the provincial government and a low interest loan from the fine folks at FCM through their Green Municipal Fund. With this in place, the pilot program budget was approved by Halifax Regional Council, and HRM Canadian municipalities offer PACE financing. This offering was offered to property owners at a fixed rate of 3.5% over a 10-year term, and to be eligible, property owners simply needed to have their property taxes up to date. The next key to a positive business case is critical partnerships. So aside from the financing barriers, there are also legal barriers to getting the program off the ground. And this started with our municipal charter. Under the charter, we were unable to legally offer PACE financing, so we had to work closely with the province to request an amendment to the charter to enable the creation of a solar city bylaw. This bylaw, at the consent of the property owner, would give Halifax the authority to finance installations of solar panels or other energy efficiency equipment on private property in exchange for the first lien on that property. The amendment request to the province was successful, and bylaw S500 was enacted to enable PACE financing. With this legal authority in place, we then had the task of developing a solar building permit basically from scratch to ensure the quality control of all systems that were installed under the program. In partnership with the contracting industry and building officials, a solar city building permit was developed, and to date, we've issued over 1,500 solar building permits for various solar equipment. The third key to success, and in my opinion, the most important, is simplicity, which really spans all 5 of the keys to a successful business case. If the process to participate is complicated, there will be no traction, and the program will essentially fall flat. To make things simple, the program offered financing to just one solar technology, which was solar thermal for domestic hot water heating. At the time, solar hot water heating systems were the most cost-effective and the most understood by the industry. There was also a rebate being offered by the province for these systems, so it really made it quite cost-effective. In addition to the one sole technology, the municipality opted to use one solar contractor to again ensure a streamlined process for property owners. Through a competitive RFP, a local company with over 30 years of experience in manufacturing and installing solar equipment was selected. With the contractor and technology vetted by the municipality, interested property owners simply needed to request a free site assessment before signing an agreement should their site be deemed suitable. Additionally, as the understanding of solar technology in the area was fairly limited at the time, the municipality partnered with Dalhousie University to develop this HRM solar map to give property owners an idea of whether or not their site would be suitable for a solar installation. With all these key items in place, the Solar City program was launched, and it ran from the Solar City pilot program, was launched and ran from 2013 to 2015 with over 400 property owners participating. The systems that were installed under the program are expected to offset 660 tons of greenhouse gas emissions and save property owners a total of $170,000 in energy costs. While the pilot was successful, it really drove awareness of the feasibility of solar here in Nova Scotia and PACE financing in general. In the years that followed, similar programs began to launch in municipalities across the province and Canada, and the awareness also helped really spur the solar market here in Nova Scotia. And I myself can attest to these benefits firsthand. There's me, because once I finished the university in 2013, I actually got hired by the company that administered the pilot program. So I worked on the contractor side before being hired by the city in 2017 to run the current version of the program. So modeled off the success of the pilot, the current program was launched in 2016 and was expanded to include financing for all solar technologies, including solar hot water, solar hot air, and solar electric. It was also opened up to all solar contractors, providing that they meet industry best practices. To date, we financed $16 million in projects and installed over 6 megawatts of solar. While that current version of the program is still running, we are actually working on expanding the program again based on the direction of Halifax, our new climate action plan. So based on the success and lessons from the pilot program and the current program, we're now working on developing a full deep energy retrofit program. So as I said at the top of the presentation, meaningful climate action really starts at the local level, as proven through the Solar City program. With more and more accessible financing programs like that of the Green Municipal Fund, There is really no better time than now to get started. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. That was really interesting. Just to point out an interesting note really is that while this project was historically funded by our core program of funding, we now have the Community Efficiency Financing Initiative, which specifically exists to support such projects. So if it is that you are considering a project similar to this one for your municipality, just keep in mind our Community Efficiency Financing Program or our core initiative. So next up, we have some questions, I believe. One moment.
There will be answer during the Q&A. We can move forward.
Okay, thank you, Anne-Charlotte. I appreciate that. Okay, so next up, we have Gord. So Gord, who I'd mentioned, is the project manager for housing development at Niagara Regional Housing. So as you can see on this presentation slide here, an interesting point to note is the triple bottom line area. This project contributed an estimated 9 million to the Welland economy, and the building itself that was built achieved a 51% reduction in typical energy consumption and now eliminates 44 tons of GHGs annually. So Gord, I will hand it over to you to present on Niagara Region's first social housing LEED building. Thank you.
Thanks, Kira. It's great to be with everyone today discussing NRH's Fitch Street Seniors Residence Project, the first LEED certified social housing build in the Niagara region, and how the lessons of this project lend themselves to creating a successful municipal business case. I thought it might be beneficial to examine a few key sections of the business case, namely needs, organizational readiness, project vision, and project financials. Using the Fitch Street build, we'll look at how the decision to undertake a sustainable residential project can influence and be influenced by these four factors. One of the first steps in creating our business case for Fitch Street was performing a thorough needs assessment. We started by examining the needs and mandate of our organization as found in our bylaws, who we serve, which municipalities, and what delivery models were at our disposal. We then looked at NRH's strategic planning and long-term goals. Our board had been showing interest in a sustainable build, wishing to set a standard for triple bottom line development. NRH management was hopeful this project would create new knowledge and best practices for our organization. Once we understood the sustainability goals, our project team assessed housing needs and demands across the region. We examined internal waitlist info, municipal studies, CMHC reports, and federal census data, which helped us to determine the demographics we wanted to target and possible locations for the build. Knowing the target tenancy, we now had to select an appropriate site. Our strategic plan told us which lands in our portfolio were suitable for development and that the City of Welland was in high need for new units. City staff gave their full support for a LEED project, and we selected Fitch Street. Next, we looked at organizational readiness. This was critical for NRH when considering its first LEED project. We had to look at our capacity for new methods and the risk tolerance of our board and our management. Our business case helped our board embrace the unknowns, the learning curve, and higher upfront costs of a LEED build. For NRH, the most important question when creating the business case was, could we assemble a strong project team? Did we have staff at all levels willing to face a challenge? And were they adaptable? What knowledge, if any, did staff have in sustainable construction or programs like the Green Municipal Fund? As our internal knowledge of LEED was low, bringing on experienced consultants who could help reduce project risks was critical. Our prime consultants and our general contractor were all vetted for LEED expertise, first through pre-qualification and then through formal proposals and interviews, typical in public procurement. At this point, the beginnings of an overall project vision were in place. We had now determined where we would build, who to build for, and what our sustainability goal was, namely achieving LEED certification. We also felt confident this project would align with NRH's mandates and its bylaws. To further refine the project vision, it was now time to drill down into the LEED program itself and how it would shape the overall design, construction, operations, and the financials of the project. This involved researching and selecting a reasonable LEED certification target, and in our case, this was LEED Silver. In terms of design, we were lucky in that zoning had previously been amended for our site to allow for construction of a second building. Setbacks, heights, and parking were all laid out for us already. Knowing the available footprint and site plan, we could set design targets for the project to achieve LEED Silver. Our team tried to identify upcoming challenges of LEED construction, like scheduling, material sourcing, new trades, commissioning, and reporting. For operations, we knew our staff would require training on new systems like geothermal. Also, revised maintenance and service contracts would be necessary. To achieve financial viability, NRH looked at funding programs offered through all levels of government that support social housing projects. Ultimately, we were successful in applying for capital dollars through the Green Municipal Fund, through IAH Ontario, and also CMHC seed funding. The project's final capital budget was a combination of grants and loans through the funding programs mentioned previously, as well as NRH capital reserves that were dedicated to our new building program, and donations in kind that included municipal incentives and development charge waivers. Our operating pro forma was developed using baseline data from existing NRH buildings and savings estimates for proposed sustainable systems. We expected a payback period of roughly 3 to 7 years for the higher upfront LEED costs. However, due to unexpected maintenance issues, there was a small delay in the payback period. So now we've looked at elements of the business case. Let's look at the triple bottom line of the project and why did a LEED development make sense for us? Importantly, LEED met our mandate of providing high quality, affordable units to people in Niagara. It also let us create new units in an environmentally conscious manner. Economically, this project brought new jobs and taxes to the city, and local businesses continue to benefit from having new tenants in the area. For NRH, the building's energy efficiency provides ongoing utility savings. This project also brought new knowledge and skills to our organization. Pursuing LEED certification also opened up doors to new funding opportunities, such as FCM's Green Municipal Fund. This program made it possible through capital contributions and loans for Fitch Street to reach its sustainability goals while still providing mandatory affordability levels for our tenants. And that's a very brief overview of our project business case. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope there were some useful takeaways for your own projects. I really appreciate this opportunity from FCM to discuss our project and to promote the notion that now more than ever, it's really critical to keep fighting our housing and climate crises. Thanks very much.
And thank you, Gord. We really appreciate you presenting today also. So an interesting point for everybody to note is that while once again core programming historically funded this project, now we have a program called Sustainable Affordable Housing, which would tend to these sort of projects. So if it is that you're thinking or you have a vision for your municipality to carry out such a project, please feel free to reach out to us and we'll tell you more about the Sustainable Affordable Housing Program. Okay, moving on to our final presentation. We have Amy. Amy's presenting today on the City of Iqaluit's new LEED Silver Aquatic Centre. Amy has spent 5 years working to deliver the dream of a new energy efficient aquatic centre for Iqaluit. And following the delivery of this project, she was promoted to Iqaluit's Chief Administrative Officer. Drawing on the invaluable experience that she's gained from the DMF project, Amy is leading efforts to respond to climate change impacted infrastructure challenges that face the city, while advancing municipal infrastructure that will serve as a model for Arctic sustainability. In terms of the 5 key success areas, I might note the critical partnerships one here. The City of Iqaluit and Coleg Energy Corporation demonstrated a unique multi-level government partnership in terms of over its district heating agreement. And the success of this agreement led to a commitment to connect an additional 3 of the city's facilities to the district heating system. So it's been quite a success. So Amy, I'll hand it over to you to present your great project.
FCM's Green Municipal Fund was a big part of our aquatic centre story. The City of Iqaluit received a $7.5 million loan and a $750,000 grant for its $32 million project, opening the door to allow us to secure financing for our energy efficient aquatic and fitness centre. In today's presentation, I will share with you the key success factors of our project, and perhaps you will be able to take away some of our lessons learned and apply them to your next Green Municipal Fund or community project. We decided to pursue the Green Municipal Fund for a couple of reasons. First, it was the only source of infrastructure funding available to us. We knew that a successful application would help instill confidence and buy-in from stakeholders, and would provide additional value by ensuring the commitment to an energy-efficient design that our community would be proud of. To provide you with a bit of context, Iqaluit is the capital city of Nunavut and the largest community in Canada's newest territory. Its population is over 8,300 people, with just 39,000 in the territory. Population estimates suggest a makeup of 50% Inuit and 50% of residents originating from southern Canada. To some, Iqaluit may seem like a small, remote city, but in fact, it's a very dynamic and busy place, a regional hub for transportation, Inuit and government organizational headquarters, healthcare, education, recreation and sport, and the arts. Iqaluit is a diverse city. It celebrates traditional Inuit culture and values while embracing modern living. During the planning stages of this project, it was very important that the mandate include community benefits for health and fitness, jobs, training for youth, economic opportunities, and reflect Iqaluit's unique culture. To give our community the opportunity to contribute and help shape the facility and programs, a fundraising campaign called REACH was developed. While fundraising was important, the REACH campaign acted as a vehicle for community engagement. The approach proved successful when a plebiscite was held to determine if the city could finance and ultimately proceed with the project. Drawing on local knowledge and local solutions was an important part of ensuring our success. While it was critical to engage technical experts from outside Nunavut, the contributions and input and support from local architects, contractors, consultants, businesses, community groups, and city staff was invaluable. There are no roads in or out of Iqaluit or connecting the communities of Nunavut. However, a direct flight from Ottawa or Montreal is just a short 3 hours to Iqaluit. As Northerners, we are accustomed to remote conditions, but we needed to ensure this was not underestimated in the project schedule and budget. The aquatic center construction materials were all shipped to Iqaluit via sea lift. Every year, goods such as vehicles, furniture, and non-perishable food are shipped to Iqaluit from the port near Montreal. Missing shipping deadlines or an early freeze-up could mean delays of a year or more. To achieve the goal of building an energy-efficient aquatic center and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, we needed to address our historic diesel problem. In the 1940s, the U.S. Air Force occupied what was then Frobisher Bay to build and operate an air base for World War II for a transatlantic air traffic route. The U.S. Army left the city with a legacy of historic contamination. The Aquatic Center site is located in the downtown core in an area still referred to as Lower Bays. The site was once a hospital for the U.S. Army with an incinerator, generator, and fuel storage, which led to the hydrocarbon contamination that was discovered during the environmental site assessments. As we were building on a brownfield, a contamination management plan was implemented. Soil that was dug up as a result of construction was separated and removed for remediation. Vertical piping was installed to allow for passive remediation, and sumps were installed in the ground to capture any free product that might flow in the future. In our region, we have seen the effects of permafrost on infrastructure firsthand. The building foundation was one of the biggest considerations of this project. Drawing on local knowledge and experience, we installed a pile foundation which consisted of drilling steel pipes deep into the ground, up to 30 feet in some locations, and grouted into the bedrock for extra stability. The building is secured on piles 2 to 3 meters above ground to allow a space for airflow to keep the ground cool, preventing permafrost degradation on site and reducing any impacts to the neighboring municipal building. The swimming pools are located on the second floor of the building as a result. Early in the project, the city and Kulik Energy Corporation agreed to enter into a partnership to incorporate district heat utilizing waste heat from the power plant located not far from the Aquatic Center. This was extremely important for the energy efficient component of the Aquatic Center, and energy targets could not be achieved without the district heat. Building on the success of the partnership and renewed collaboration, the city and Kulik Energy recently entered into another agreement to reconnect 3 other municipal facilities to the district heat. It is expected that connecting all 4 facilities will avoid emitting 1,500 tons of emissions annually, and the city will benefit from reduced fuel and operating costs. Looking back on the grand opening 4 years ago is a memorable experience. Over 1,000 visits took place the first weekend alone. It is especially encouraging to see children and youth progress through the aquatics programs. To date, over 2,500 swim lessons have been taught through Learn to Swim and School Swim programs, which has resulted in the certification and hiring of local youth as lifeguards and swim instructors. The Jimmy Killebuk Children's Recreation Fund is a needs-based program to ensure that Inuit children and their families can access all the benefits of the Aquatic Center and its programs. The fund is named after an elder, former city councilor, and mayor who passed away before he could see his dream of building the Aquatic Center through to completion. The Green Municipal Fund helped the city of Iqaluit take action to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions and encouraged us to seek out partnerships and local innovative solutions to our energy challenges. As a result, our Aquatic Center is helping to build better lives and a brighter future for our community.
What a success story that is. Okay, just keeping an eye on time, we're going to head into the discussion period. So thank you all to each of the presenters, Kevin, Gord, and Amy, for your insights on the 5 keys to successful green municipal projects and their business cases. For a bit of a deeper dive into this topic, I have 2 questions that I'm going to share around and ask each of you. So the first question is, what insights do you have now about the 5 key areas you wish you had at the beginning of the project? Gord, I might go with you since I see you in front of me.
Yeah, sure. I'd have to say on this project, understanding how the triple bottom line goals can impact financials. I know the question was asked in the chat about what exactly is the triple bottom line. So looking at not just financial benefits from the project, but also the impact on the social and environmental impacts. And because we chose to pursue LEED as our environmental goal to meet our triple bottom line goal, it was really important to understand financial impacts of LEED, mainly on capital and operational phases. And you really need to feel confident in your preliminary estimates and your funding asks. There's some additional costs associated with LEED relating to consulting, design, building systems, and materials. and then also reporting and certification and ongoing maintenance. And these really need to be factored into your initial budget.
Great, thank you. Very insightful. Kevin, have you got any insights to share?
Yeah, definitely. So I would say, looking back, critical partnerships are key in engaging with, the bodies having jurisdiction over what you can and cannot do, because there's a fair bit of red tape involved with getting the program off the ground and being one of the first in Canada to try and offer this PACE financing. There wasn't really a roadmap that we could easily follow. So as I mentioned during the presentation, we couldn't legally offer PACE financing to property owners because it was seen as sort of a voluntary program. So we required the charter amendment, and then knowing that we needed to have a bylaw, which we then had to update again for the second version of the program. And now with the current version of the program that we're working on, we realize there's still charter barriers to expand past residential financing. So yeah, really engaging early and having all that know-how in place would be super helpful for streamlining the process going forward.
Great. Amy, they said a lot there, but have you got any anything else to tie up the answer to this question?
Yeah, just for us, I guess it was the financing. That was a bigger challenge than I ever imagined. We really thought that the levels of government would get on board early on, and that was actually really, really difficult. So it was really great when we were successful with our FCM application, and that actually really did open the door to allow us to pursue the project, because without that, it would have been even more difficult, I guess, to get another lender on board. So for us, that was really key.
Great. Thank you for those answers. Before I step into the next question, just a reminder to participants, I see a lot of questions coming in. And for those who haven't asked a question yet, please feel welcome to type a question into the chat box. And we will do a sort of open question and answers soon after this. So the next question I have for the three of you is, which of the 5 key areas were the most important for getting council support for your business case or your project? Amy, would you like to maybe start this one, since I see you here in front of me on my screen?
Sure. So for council support, it was easy to gain support early on, but later on with the new council, it was actually quite difficult because we had kind of some change in their priorities. So that was a challenge for us. But I guess what was really important along the way, if I'll just mention, was our local knowledge and the involvement of our local experts. So having our local architect from Stantec on board, who grew up here and lived here all his life, that was really, really a huge benefit for us, as was the contractor who did the drilling, the local contractor, and so on. So local knowledge and local involvement was a critical component in our project.
Great. Gord?
Yeah, I'd probably say most important for getting council and our board support was the financials. Because we operate as a government nonprofit housing corporation, financials of the project are always front and center. And once we had support from our board for a lead project, our presentation to council really needed to include an airtight business case with details on capital and operating estimates. We were able to demonstrate the project would meet criteria of the funding programs we were targeting, and that the building would be self-sustaining financially. But it was also really important to show critical partnership with an expert in lead. So our lead consultants were critical.
Brilliant. Kevin, any thoughts?
Yeah, so the one key would be financing the program for it to actually get off the ground. It needed to be cost neutral so that no taxpayers were subsidizing the program. Because when you think about it, if I'm going to be getting city financing to put solar on my roof and reap the benefits, it's a hard sell for the neighbor to be sort of subsidizing that. Although there are many environmental benefits to that as well. So key was the financing, and there's actually a public report back 2012 or so where there's actually a recommendation to kill the program because we were unable to get that third party financing to make it cost neutral.
Super. Well, thank you to each of you for those answers. So they were my own prepared questions, I suppose, for each of you. There are questions coming in, so I've picked 3 to start with that can be answered by all of you. So the first one is from Trevor Imhoff. He asks, what type of strategies did you implement when undertaking your organizational readiness? Example, surveys, workshops, etc., especially with senior leadership and board of directors. Any advice on this would be great. So Gord, Kevin, Amy, it's a free-for-all. Whoever would like to go first, please go ahead.
I know to get the pilot program off the ground, we did a lot of community engagement to get buy-in from the community to prove to senior management and council that yes, if we were to launch this type of program, the community would participate. We also work closely with the solar contractors as well to really understand the nuts and bolts of how the technology works, how a potential program could work, so that once we got to senior management, it was sort of all laid out at that point. But engaging the community early is really, really important to show that this is something that it should be supported by senior management.
Yeah, great. Gord, Amy? Oh, I see there. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So for us, we knew that we'd have some trouble with some buy-in due to some past projects that were not successful, unfortunately. And so what we did is we basically acknowledged those challenges, and through feasibility study and communication with the public through our intense, it was the most consultation we've ever done, of course. We came up with ways that we would be able to ensure the capacity was there to manage the project. So we engaged recommended and then pursued engaging a project management firm to assist us, and that was really key. During our plebiscite, we were told by a number of residents and business owners that the reason that they did vote yes was because they knew that it sounded like we had the capacity through hiring a project management firm to help us.
Brilliant. Gord, have you got anything to add, or I can move on to the next question otherwise?
No, just briefly, I'd say for us, all the points that were just made were critical for us too, but also looking at historic records of our previous projects and the lessons learned, and identifying what areas worked really well for us and what areas we might have been lacking on, and kind of filling the gaps there. And then especially with a lead project that was new to us, a lot of upfront research into that program, and then being honest with ourselves saying, yes, we can take this on, or no, we're gonna need some help, and then hiring accordingly.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for those answers. We have a question in from Jeffrey. How much green expertise did you have in-house when you started? Does anyone have anything that, maybe Kevin, any thoughts?
Yeah, so I wasn't around when the pilot program actually got off the ground, but I've worked with the individuals that did sort of conceive it, and they had quite a bit of expertise. And we have at the time, there was a small sort of solar industry, which we had good connections with. So I would say that it was actually fairly decent, the expertise in the field.
Okay, so basically your team walked in somewhat prepared in terms of their knowledge already.
That's correct, yeah, exactly.
And Amy, how was it for you?
Yeah, I would say we had essentially one person in house who I would say had green expertise, and that was really helpful to draw on her knowledge early on. But as we included it as part of our mandate, what we did is we hired consultants to help us assess what was reasonable to implement in our.
That's great. Thank you. Gord?
And yeah, basically what Amy just said applied to us as well. We had some knowledge in house from more of a research standpoint, but in terms of actual project experience, I think it was pretty limited, and consultancy was the way to go for us for the first project.
Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, now questions for specific to each of the projects. Gord, I have a question for you here from Angus. What were the operational difficulties on the lead seniors building?
So an issue that came up was it had to do with green technology, basically. For our project, we decided to go with a geothermal mechanical system for the building. Geothermal for multi-res buildings in Niagara at the time was pretty new, and there ended up being a few issues with the system itself after installation, and trying to find expertise, setting up a good service contract with someone in the area who knew geothermal proved to be a little challenging, and there were a lot of unforeseen maintenance costs that came up. I know that this technology's come a long way since then, and I wouldn't foresee any issues like that now, or I don't think we'd shy away from using that system now, but at the time there were some unknowns that ended up costing us in the long run. Okay.
And so what I'm hearing there is that it would be advisable to give consideration to your contingency when it comes to the budgeting.
Yeah. I think with any unknowns and any risks like that, you want to pad your contingency if you can, and really just look at existing projects that are out there and find as many examples and as many estimates as you can.
Brilliant, thank you. Kevin, I have a couple of questions here for you, so I might just pick one, and if it goes quickly, I'll go with the second one. We have from Sharon, for Halifax, given the legal issues, public expectations between the original pilot and pilot now wax and wane, or did you need to manage those expectations more than you'd like? So I suppose in terms of stakeholder expectation management, could you maybe speak to a little bit of that?
Yeah, I think for the pilot program, there were the sort of legal barriers that we could get around with the charter amendment and creating a bylaw. But that wasn't really, it was all public, but a lot of the public weren't really sure like what was actually going on. So there might have been some expectations like, hey, let's start a program, but hey, by the way, we have to kind of hold off. So I would say with like expectation was, I don't think it was that big of a deal. I'd say, before you make a program public that this is going to happen, make sure you know sort of timelines and what legal barriers need to be overcome first. So you don't get any sort of angry individuals.
Okay, great. I have a good question here from Steve that I might just follow up with. Can you explain a little more about PACE, such as who funds the loans, and are they funded by FCM or the city? Yeah,
right on. So the pilot, it was funded through the GMF grant that we got from FCM. So we got a low interest rate, like lower than 2% or something. And we tacked on a percentage to cover the cost of administration to the property owner. So that was covered by FCM and some grants that we got from the province. The current version of the program, though, is funded just through our general cash flow.
Okay. And just following up with that, Trevor asked a question, are there stats on default rates since the start?
Yeah, so the default rates are virtually zero. We've never had to take anyone to tax sale. People seem to find the money when we put a little pressure on them. But I think having that first lien on the property as a form of security is really, really great at reducing that default rate. And there's a lot of programs that we're trying to expand the program and potentially look at third-party financing. There's some other programs across North America that, again, with energy efficiency and installing solar panels, because that asset is actually saving you money off of your bill, the default rate is actually much lower because you're actually getting money to pay off that loan. So.
Yeah, great. Thank you. There was a lot of questions for you, so thank you. Let me see now. We have a question to all panelists from Jessica. Did you receive private sector investments to fund the projects? And if so, how did you identify private sector sources? I'm going to leave it up to each of you to choose if you wish to answer this. Amy, yeah.
I can answer just for in terms of
financing.
Brilliant. So one thing that we did, which I wouldn't do again, is we initially put out an RFP for financing, so for the financial institutions to hopefully get a good rate. And that didn't really work out for us. It wasted a lot of time. There was so much work involved with, what we needed to provide them and reports and so on. It was intense. So that didn't really work out for us. I probably would just try to direct negotiate with our bank the next time. If we did it. And then as for the other investment, I would say for our fundraising campaign, that's where we did receive some contributions from corporate, and also we, as a qualified donee as a municipality, we can issue tax receipts. So we were able to benefit from that as well.
That's great, thank you. How are we doing for questions? Given the time, I might just wrap up. So just to say to everyone who has asked questions who didn't get them answered today, we will be happy to follow up with you by email and answer those questions. And before you go, if you wouldn't mind just taking time after this session to complete our survey, it really helps us to improve our webinars going forward and ensure that we're getting the right information to you. Also, if you're curious to learn more about our programs, please feel free to visit our website there, programs information. So it's fcm.ca/GMF. Just to say thank you to our three presenters for today. It's been really great listening to you all, and it's lovely to hear these success stories. My name for everyone is Kira Backwell. I forgot to introduce myself at the beginning. I am an outreach advisor for the Green Municipal Fund. So I am one of those people that would talk to you to understand your project and help guide you in the right direction when it comes to green municipal funding. I think that's it for today. I'm just going to check in with my team. Are there any other key questions or anything that we'd like to raise? I think that's it. So once again, thank you to everybody for attending. Thank you to the presenters. Really interesting to hear from you today. And we look forward to hearing from everybody. Please do email in with questions or reach out to us by phone. We're happy to talk with you. So thank you and all the best.